live on YouTube?
Yes, sir.
How's it going, everybody on YouTube?
We're just getting things set up here.
Appreciate you tuning in.
Just be patient, get your stuff that you're going to sit around and watch the Bible study with, your Bible, pen and paper, get your drink. Praise the Lord, everybody on Facebook. We already welcomed the people on YouTube. We're excited about tonight's Bible study. Of course, this is Table Talk. Get your stuff that you need to be set up for the Bible study that we're going to dig into tonight. Get your salad. I know we've been talking about spaghetti, but get your salad, get your drinks. You know, tonight I'm drinking my coffee, so I'm going to join in with you. We have some incredible information that we want to deliver to you tonight from the Word of God. What we're trying to do with this Table Talk is really cause you to be in a more comfortable environment where you can invite family and friends over to your house to where they might not come to church, but they'll come to your house and then they can dig in the Word with you while we deliver what God has given us. We're looking at stories. We're in this series called Faith and Family, and we're looking at different stories and pulling out nuggets of information that we hope will be very beneficial to your life.
Now, Table Talk is our regular Wednesday night Bible study. This is our Bible study. We just changed the name. We're changing how we do it. Where we're going as a ministry, where God is taking us, is a little different than probably what you're used to or used to have seen. So just ride with us. God is doing something new and unique. So what we're doing is, as you see, every week we have a different location, we have a different background. We're just trying to just change things up and give you a way to be able to hear the Word in the comfort of your home. Like Bishop said, have your family, friends come over. It's more inviting when you're at your home. And then, you know, now they come to your house on Wednesday, then you can invite them on Sunday for our regular Sunday service. So Table Talk is our new Bible study name. The series we're doing is Faith and Families. We are very excited about it. Last week was a great first start of it.
Yes.
We got such a great response. Bishop decided to continue to do this format this way because people like the interaction. Don't forget, at the end, we're going to take about 15 minutes to answer any questions or comments that you may have. We have people in the background facilitating that's going to let us know what's going on. Even during the teaching, if you have a question on something that we said, please type it in the comments. Let us know. They'll put up a sign, let us know, and we'll try to fit it in right then. If we don't get it in right then, we will definitely get it in at the end.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to come and listen to the Word. I believe that we have been stuck in a format of having to go to the church building to get the Word. And with people's lives being so busy, rushing to get home from work, we found that church attendance was kind of dwindling a little bit. But it wasn't because people didn't really want the Word.
Right.
And so that's why we really made this shift. We want you to be able to get the Word. I mean, we're studying this Word. We have some insight that we believe God has given us so that you can feed on it. But we wanted to make it available to you in a way that you can receive it, not just having to come all the way down to the building, but you got kids, sit the kids down, let them eat dinner, and then get into Word with us.
Amen.
So we're really excited about tonight's Word. Tonight we're going to talk about what it takes unified faith in a family to help fulfill God's will. So we're going to be talking about how faith works within the family structure. The father with the husband, or the husband with the wife, rather, and the wife with the husband, and the wife with the kids. We're going to see how far we get. We have multiple stories that we're going to talk about. But we're going to dig into these stories in a different way. So we hope that you will, take some time to really listen to what we have to say.
Also, we want you to, we want you to share this post.
Yes.
You got to understand that this is evangelism. When you share this on your post, that's you evangelizing. And God is calling us to evangelize. We might not be doing it like we did in the past and door to door. We still want you to talk to people on your job and people you may see at the grocery store, but this is another way of evangelizing by sharing this on your platform, on your post, sharing this on your feed. I'm sorry about that. So make sure you share this. Don't be ashamed to share the gospel.
Amen.
We tell people to share, and And you know, when I look at the shares, it's a little low compared to how many people are actually watching. Share this on your feed. This will be a blessing to somebody. It's going to be a blessing to you. You don't know who's going to be watching on your timeline that's going to get touched by this, that's going to need this word. So don't be afraid to share the gospel. We share a lot of other things. We want to start sharing the gospel. So share. I'm going to push this. I'm going to say this a couple times tonight in the middle of it. Make sure you guys share it. It's an arrow right on the screen. If you go to it right now, you can hit share. It's going to ask you to share it on your timeline. Hit share. Share this. Evangelize. Be a witness. Be a minister to the gospel to other people. Let people know that you represent Christ. Don't be afraid.
And we're taking our time before we jump into the word because we want to really build the foundation on what is expected for this type of format. We want you to at least put in the comments whether you like this format or not. Because we don't know. This is our first time doing it. I mean, we hope that you like this format. Also, let us know you're there. You know,
Yes.
holler out from whatever household you're at.
Roll call.
Yeah, do the roll call.
Roll call.
Let us know how many people at your house watching. We want people to get excited about
Yes.
using their own house as a mini church
Yes.
location.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea behind this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we ready to get started here?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I think we're ready to jump in. We said pretty much everything we need to say. I'm going to ask you to turn to Genesis chapter 6, verse 8. That's what we're going to springboard from tonight. That's the first story we're going to talk about. We have probably 4 stories. We'll see how far we get as we talk about faith and the family. That's Genesis chapter 6, starting at verse 8. And I'm going to read down just a little bit. We're going to read down to verse 22. And I know many people know this story of Noah, but we want to read it and we want to talk about some things that deal with a unified faith in the family. All right?
Amen.
But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with God. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubit, the breadth of it 50 cubit, and the height of it 30 cubit. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower sections and 3rd stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of the waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee, and of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come into thee to keep thee alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so did he.
Amen.
Powerful story. You want to take a first crack at it?
So, what we're dealing with today is unified faith in the family. Really what that means is, how do I believe God for something that that God told my spouse? You know, how do I believe God and trust God that what God is telling my spouse or what God has told me? How do my wife believe and trust God that what I'm saying is from God?
Yes.
So that's the angle we're going at. So when we look at the story of Noah, we're looking at God comes to Noah and says, listen, I'm getting ready to destroy the earth. We know the story, get ready to destroy the earth, but for you, I want to save you and your family. Now, this is the thing about this story. Noah has to go to his wife, he has to go to his sons, he has to go to his sons' wives and tell them, God told me to build an ark. because it's going to rain and he's going to destroy the whole earth with a flood. Now understand this, they never experienced rain before.
Right.
So for one, what is rain? Well, you know, the ocean out there, just turn it upside down, and that's rain. You know, they never experienced rain. What is an ark? They never had the experience with a boat. So God tells Noah this, he tells his family, but we don't see his family giving him any struggle with the decision to help him. That's what unified faith is about. They didn't give him well, I don't know what you're talking about, so that can't be so. They just went along with it and believed that God told Noah what he told Noah. We have to believe in our leader, in our head, even if it's not the head, that they're hearing from God. That's very important, that you be in tune with God, so you can say, okay, that might be way out there, but I'm gonna go with it. Like for instance, I remember when my dad, bless his soul, bless his heart, you know, we was in Michigan, and he said, you know, we're moving to Arizona. Now I didn't want to move to Arizona. You know, I want to stay in Detroit. But he said, the Lord sent us to Arizona. Now, initially, I fought it. Initially, I didn't want to go. And I had to have a car accident in order to decide, oh yeah, I want to go. But when I went, it changed my whole life. My life has not been the same. If I would have stayed in Detroit, no telling what I would have got into. But I had to have faith and believe. I might not want to go, but you say God said we're going to go and we're going to prosper in Arizona, then I'm going to trust you in that.
Yeah, it really takes everyone being on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at this story, the magnitude of the job.
Yes.
I mean, he said you're going to build an ark, and it's going to be able to put all the beasts and the animals, and you're going to gather all these animals together 2 by 2 and bring them. I mean, what kind of, that's an overwhelming proposition.
Yes.
I can't imagine, you know, the Lord telling me, you know, to tell my wife, yeah, we're getting ready to go build an ark, and we're going to gather all the animals, and we're going to put them all in there. I mean, it just sounds far-fetched.
Yes.
But that's the kind of God that we serve. He gives us very aggressive visions.
Yes.
And then the people that are all working together have to be able to embrace it.
Yes.
And you know, even in your own life, you might not be married, but you might be a single mother and you have children that are under you. You got to begin to teach your children to understand that you hear from God.
Yes.
You know, I've learned to appreciate my wife. She hears from the Lord, and when she says God's going to do such a thing, you know, I say, okay, that's the Lord. I don't see it, but if you're saying God is going to do it, then He's going to do it. I'm going to give you a small example. We decided to sell our building, to sell the church. We wanted to move in a different direction with the ministry. We're moving to a different city. It's going to be really dynamic, and I was a little nervous about it. But the Lord spoke to my wife immediately and told her the building's going to sell real quick.
Uh-huh.
And so the broker was trying to give me, well, if it doesn't sell in 6 to 9 months, then maybe we can extend the agreement. And I said, no, the Lord told my wife it's going to sell instantly.
Right.
Don't you know, by the time we signed the leasing agreement, within 1 day we were listed.
Right.
And so this is the kind of thing that you have to learn to understand, how God works in families. He'll work with the wife, He'll work with the husband, He'll work with the children. If everyone has the same mindset as far as loving God and believing in God and having faith, that's what you need.
Yes.
Unified faith in a family.
Yes.
So when we look at this story, we see that everyone just kind of lined up and fell in line with what God was telling Noah to do. Now, it took a long time to build this ark.
Yes.
Some people say 120 years, but it wasn't really 120 years. It was 120 years from the time that God said, the end of all flesh is at hand. That's when God was determined that He was going to destroy the world.
Yes.
So it was about 50 to 75 years, give or take, that Noah was actually working on the ark. But you know, 75 years, 50 years working on a project, waiting for rain, everybody walking by calling you crazy. Your kids got to go to school and they got to deal with it. Oh yeah, your daddy's out there. You got the crazy daddy. He's the one that's building some kind of stuff. Nobody don't know about it. I mean, just imagine if it was your life. Having to stand on what God said knowing that other people don't understand your God.
Yes.
But you got to understand your
You gotta
God.
understand your God.
You really do.
And this is the thing. You're going to have these situations. You're going to have these situations where God is going to say, this is what I want you to do. And you're going to have to step out on faith. And you have to be in a place, your family have to be in a place to believe and trust that you're stepping out on God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be people around you that's going to say you're crazy. It's going to be people around you say you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to accomplish that. What are you doing? Why did you just quit your job and do this? And why did you go back to school? That don't make any sense. You're too old. You're too young. You're this. There's always going to be excuses of why you shouldn't do what God is calling you to do.
Amen.
But if you believe it, and you know that God is calling you to do it, then you have to step out and do it. It don't matter how long it takes. What I like about this is 50, 75, 120, however long it took, they stood right by Noah every step of the way.
Amen.
I know some days he had to re-encourage them.
Amen.
Listen, God told me to do this. Probably the third month, like, Pops, you sure? It might have been 50 years, 20 years. Pops, we've been working on this for 20 years. You sure God told you to do this? I'm sure God told me to do this. There's going to be situations and time in your life where you're going to even question, Lord, is this really you?
Yes.
Because you were expecting it to happen fast. A lot of times when God tells us something and God shows us a vision, we think we're going to wake up tomorrow, Pops.
Right.
Tomorrow we're going to have everything that God showed us in the vision. But it takes time for that thing to develop, for that thing to be built, for that thing to grow. So you just have to continue to have faith. Your family has to have faith. Y'all have to continue together to trust in God. I believe Noah was able to stay in there because his family stayed in there with him.
Amen.
They trusted God with him.
Yeah.
I think if they left and he was by himself, he'd have been like, Lord,
Everybody left
me.
You know, it's funny that you're saying that because time is one of the issues that the church has a problem with. We live in a society where everybody wants stuff done right now. But God's timing is just not our timing.
Right.
And I remember you and I were talking about this story, and we were kind of tossing out some ideas. And one of the things you said that just resonated with me right now is imagine how they felt while they were in the ark after it was done.
Yes.
So they didn't just get in the ark and get out, but they were in the ark for a whole year.
Yes, another year.
A whole year in there with a bunch of stinky, smelling animals. I don't know if it bothered them or not. But they had to feed them.
Yes.
Everyone had their responsibilities while they were in there.
Right.
And it just shows me the perseverance that it takes to really fulfill the will of God.
Yes.
You know, people say they have a vision from the Lord. I want to serve the Lord. I want to do this for God. But listen, you got to persevere. You got to endure.
Yes.
Because many times, the things that God's calling you to do, like you said, don't happen overnight.
Yes.
It really, really does take time.
You know, it's funny that you would say that because when you dig even deeper into it, look at the workload they had when it was
Oh my goodness.
They had all these animals that they had to feed. They had all these animals that they had to take care of.
Yep.
Like, how many hours a day did they spend tending to the animals? You know, a lot of times we see the vision and we want it, but are we willing to do the work?
Amen.
The Bible says faith without works is dead.
Right.
First of all. So are we willing to do the work to reach the end result?
Amen.
What if they didn't feed the animals? What if they just stopped? You know, they just,
I'm tired of this.
you know, I'm tired of feeding animals. You know, so understand, God is going to have you launch out into the deep for sure.
Jesus.
But you have to be willing to do what it takes. Don't just be a talker, be a doer. You say you want to do ministry, do ministry.
Amen.
You say you want to help people, help people. Don't just talk about helping people. Don't just post stuff that sounds good. Really get out there and help people. But you know that's what required?
Work. And when you said that, the title of this portion of the teaching, it takes unified faith in the family to help fulfill the will of God. And so the whole idea of it takes unified faith really means it takes all of us working together.
Yes.
As you said, faith without works is dead.
That's how it works today.
You know, I want to shift to a different thought of this story because it's a really good story that has many components to it. And I want to just look at Genesis chapter 9. After everything that happened and the rain subsides, the water subsides rather, the year passes and they finally get a chance to come out. And then you get in chapter 9 and the Lord begins to talk to Noah and to the children. He tells them in verse 1, God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, upon every fowl of the air, and upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon the fishes and the sea, and to your hands are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is in the blood thereof, shall you not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require at the hand of every beast, will I require it, at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of the man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you, be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, and I, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth, and I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by water of the flood. Neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the token of the covenant which I will make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in a cloud, a rainbow, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. It shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant which is between me and you, and every living creature of the flesh, and the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. When I read that, I thought about how God comforts us in our trials and tribulations and our tragedies. We have to remember that these men and these women went into the ark with people screaming and hollering and crying and dying. For 40 days and 40 nights, they could hear people screaming and hollering for help. They never seen a rain before. They never seen a flood before. And so after the flood is over and everything is destroyed and the water has subsided, I can imagine the anxiety that they felt in their hearts. Yeah. Especially if a cloud was to come over their head. If a cloud were to show up, I'd be like, oh no! You know, because you cannot experience that kind of what word am I looking for? I would say tragedy, but there's a different word that I'm looking for that can affect your spirit. And then you see a cloud come over your head, and that relived that whole 40 days and 40 nights. Yes, yes. But what the Lord did, he says, I understand the trauma that you're experiencing because of the flood. That's good stuff right there. And because of the trauma that you've experienced, I am going to comfort you continually. Yes. Every time it gets ready to rain and you see a cloud, I know you're going to begin to shake, but all you got to do is look up, and I'm going to put a rainbow in the sky to calm you down, to let you know, no, I'm not getting ready to destroy everything again. Yes. I can't imagine being a kid after going through that tragedy and going through that trauma to come out, and then the first time it rains again. Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's about to rain. But the Lord in his goodness, he's a God that comforts us in a way that nobody else can comfort us.
That's good. I like that. I like that. And the other thing I saw here before we go on to the next one is that initially God talked to Noah. And a lot of times God will talk to one person first because of where their faith is. And then when everybody else believes what the one person says, then God said, okay, now you're ready to receive direct contact with me. Amen. First he talks to Noah, then we get to chapter 9. God says he talked to Noah and his sons. Yes. Why did he talk to his sons then? Because their faith was where it needs to be to understand, oh, this is God's voice. So when you're following somebody, it helps you be able to understand this is God's voice. Because a lot of times we look and say, I don't know if this is God's voice or not. How do I know if it's God's voice? Well, you got to follow somebody that knows God's voice. Right. And then when you follow someone that knows God's voice, it'll put you in a position where you say, man, this was kind of crazy. This is kind of some of the stuff that God is telling me to do. Maybe that's God's voice talking to me. And I promise you, the devil ain't going to let you do nothing that's going to benefit the kingdom. Amen. So I like that about that. Right there.
Yeah, I think that it was important for God to talk to them.
Yes.
That level of trauma God had to really come up with something.
Yes.
Cause the rainbow's been around ever since.
Ever since.
It's a sign to us that everything's fine.
Yes.
We want to shift gears. We're going to go to our next thought process tonight. The next story is in Matthew chapter 15. You want to read that story?
Start at verse number 22.
You got a Bible, turn there. You get your phone, go with your phone. If you have any questions about Noah, you can go ahead and post those. While we're turning, we can answer if there's a question that we can answer quickly.
Matthew chapter 15, verse number 22. Starting at verse 22 to 28. Matthew chapter 15, starting at verse number 22 to 28. I'll give you a second to get it. Searching in your Bibles. Matthew chapter number 15, starting at verse number 22. Amen. Amen. Let's go. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but into the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, It is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs. And she said, Truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which falleth from the master's table. Then Jesus answered and said to her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. Go ahead, Pop, stay away.
This particular thought is the power of a mother's intercession. The series is faith and family from all different perspectives. And this particular story is very important because I believe there's a lot of things that can be solved in our families if we would really take our children to God. In this particular story, you see her bringing her daughter to Jesus. And the Lord heals the daughter not because of the daughter's faith. The Lord heals the daughter because of the mother's faith.
Yes. Yes.
And this is very important as parents, whether you're a husband or whether you're a wife, whether you're a father with a kid, you're just a single father or a single mother, that you understand your responsibility to be able to take your kids to Jesus.
Yes.
We are living in a society where children are struggling. I mean, they're struggling emotionally, they're struggling in school, they're under a lot of social pressures. And, sitting them down just talking to them is not really the full answer.
Right.
I mean, you can talk to them and you can try to consult them or give them your opinion. That's fine and dandy. But what's really going to help our children not to be beneath or to be the head and not to be the tail is for us to really take our children to Jesus.
Yes.
We're to go to Jesus for them. We're to petition for them. We're to intercede for them. We're to press until we get the answer that we're coming there for.
Yes.
Sometimes people just pray one time. They just say a quick prayer, and then nothing happens, and then, I guess prayer doesn't work. But in this story, we see this woman really digging in and just really pressing Jesus to give her what she desires for her child. You can see the compassion or the passion in this mother's heart.
Yes.
For her daughter.
Yes. When we look at verse 23, it says, and answered her not a word. He answered her not a word. Mm-hmm. And his disciples came and saw him, saying, Send her away, for she crieth after us. A lot of times you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're believing for your kid. They say there's no greater love than a mother's love. Mm-hmm. A mother's love is, oh my goodness. She believes the best even when your kid is doing the worst. But she didn't even allow the fact that other people were saying that send her away. Right. A lot of times you were praying for your child and they're saying your child is on drugs or your child is a thief or your child is this and your child is that. Then you see your child, people will always try to bring up what your child is doing. Mm-hmm. But you just got to continue to believe God said that my child was going to be saved. God said my child was going to be healed. God said my child was going to be delivered from whatever it is. God said my child was going to be healed. And you have to stand on that. It don't matter what nobody else think or say. The disciples said, send her away. And she was like, no, I can't go anywhere because this is where I need to be because my child needs something from you, Jesus. Only Jesus could have healed her child, and she knew that. So no matter what the obstacle, no matter what the setback, no matter what the challenge, she was willing to do what it takes to stand in the gap for her child. You got to stand in the gap for your child. Not only your child, for your cousins, for your mothers, for your fathers, people that's not saved, your grandma, your uncles, your aunties. Are we really standing in the gap for our unsaved loved ones? We got to stand in the gap for them. We want them to be saved. We got to petition them. Lord, save them. God, you said you was going to save them. I know they was doing drinking the other day. I know they was doing drugs the other day, but God, I believe in your word. I'm going to come before you. I'm going to worship you. I'm going to praise you because I'm standing in the gap for my family members.
Yeah, to chime in on that, many times when you read a story like this, it says that the disciples send her away. It's just a type of the enemy. Mm-hmm. Like the moment you go to try to intercede for your daughter or for your son, then the devil comes right in and tries to tell you, oh, God's not listening to you, or you might as well just quit, or, you got to go do the clothes, or anything to try to stop you from interceding. Yes. And we see here that she didn't allow anything to stop her from interceding. Yes. Not people, not even what the Lord said to her. And I know this is a thought that you had throughout when we were talking earlier, that the Lord called her a dog. If somebody called us a dog, you ain't call me no dog, you have an attitude, and that pride would kick in, and it would right away stop us from getting what we need from God. Mm-hmm. But we can't give in so easy.
Yes.
Right. Walking with the Lord is very challenging. That's probably the best word I can use, because of how the enemy resists us. Yes. At every turn. Whether we're trying to intercede for our husbands, I remember, and this is the key to having faith in family. I remember when I had backslidden, I was coming back to the Lord. And, when you say, oh, God delivered me, God delivered me, you can say that like 10 times before you really deliver. And the people that you're telling that to, they're like, oh, yeah, we heard that before. Mm-hmm. But I remember my wife, I said, God delivered me, and she was just looking at me, and she walked away. And then she came back, and the Lord had told her, he's delivered. Her response to me was different, because it was God that told her. Mm-hmm. And what that was is that in the family relationship, we have to believe God for the person. Yes. Not believe the person. Mm-hmm. So in the story, the mother is believing God to heal the child. Mm-hmm. Just like a wife would believe God to deliver the husband. Yes. Or the husband, or the husband would believe God to strengthen his wife. Or the wife and the husband would believe God to draw the children. Mm-hmm. We have to be able to believe God for our family members. And that's really the focus of this story, is how God uses, we interact, our faith is interactive in the relationship in the family. Mm-hmm. But so often we throw in the towel. We look at what people are doing, like you said, people telling you they're doing that, and we just say, man, I just wish that, they would get it together. I just wish they would get their life right. Stop wishing that they get their life right and take them to Jesus. Yes. Jesus. Intercede. Go to God and say, listen, my son is doing this. My daughter is doing this. My husband is doing this. My wife is doing this. And bring that thing to Jesus. Amen. And stay there. Amen. Until Jesus tells you, okay. Yes. Because once God gives you a word, you're good. You can go about your business after that.
Right. Yes. A lot of times, too, the person, and when I look at Jesus calling her a dog, sometimes it's the person you're praying for that calls you the dog. Can you be humble enough to still go before God in prayer? Amen. Come on, when it's the person you're praying for is the one that's calling you a dog? Mm-hmm. Or do you stop praying for them? I'm just going to let that marinate for a second. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times we pray for somebody, and then when that person comes and they hurt us, then we stop praying for them. But this right here is showing us no matter what, we have to be humble. Mm-hmm. And still go after Jesus. That's right. No matter what they say, no matter what they do, I'm still trusting and believing. God, I can't leave until you deliver, set free. Amen. And that's what it takes. Amen.
When we look at the story, the woman bringing her petition to God for her daughter, we can say, well, what about the men? I want to show you that God didn't leave us out.
Mm-hmm.
Mark chapter 9, verse 17. Everyone has their levels of challenge when it comes to faith. You know, sometimes it's easy to believe God for other people that's not family members, because it doesn't touch you personally. But then when it comes home to your house, your child has leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
Your child is dying of cancer. Then where's your faith?
Right.
And so this particular story, Mark chapter 9, verse 17, I want to kind of talk about the concept that don't be ashamed if your faith wavers. It happens to the best of us. You want to read this story? Mark chapter 9, verse 17.
Mark chapter 9, verse 17.
Let's see if I can find it.
Mark chapter 9, starting at verse number 17.
You got it?
Go ahead.
And one of the multitude answered, said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. And whithersoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth, and gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. He answered them and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him to me. And they brought him to him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. And he asked his father, how long is it ago since this came up to him? And he said, a child, since he was young. And oftentimes it has cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us. And Jesus said to him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. And straightway the father of the child cried and said with tears, Lord, I believe, but help thou mine unbelief. You know, sometimes we do believe God as Christians, but the condition of our child is so dire that we can't hardly believe that God can turn it around, that the situation can change. And then we start feeling guilty because we feel like, you know, I should have strong faith. But listen, the fact that you come to Jesus with the problem is what's necessary.
Yes.
Because the Lord can increase your faith through time. And he'll prove himself. He says, if you come with a grain of mustard seed, faith with a grain of mustard seed, then you can move mountains. And sometimes we think we need this great faith, or sometimes we feel ashamed when our faith is not measuring up. But listen, everybody's faith wavers sometimes.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
It's just how life is. Life can throw you a really, really bad curveball when you least expect it. A very bad car accident, someone that you love dearly gets hurt really bad. And then you start feeling guilty like it's your fault. Like, and then, you know, Lord, maybe it's just not my faith, or maybe I'm not doing what you called me to do, and maybe I'm doing something wrong. No, it's none of that.
Amen.
It's just life. That's why it's called an accident.
Yes.
Accidents actually do happen, and we have to just come to God, whatever level we're at, whether our faith is high, whether our faith is low. We got to bring our issue to Jesus, and Jesus can handle it.
Amen.
That's the kind of God that we serve.
Thank you, Lord.
This story is very impactful to me because the son had the problem since he was a child. It doesn't say how old the son was at this moment, but it had to be some time had to go by. A lot of times we're believing God for deliverance for a loved one, and again it goes back to the time. It's not happening in the time frame that we want it to happen. Now look at this. Let's go to where he talks about he threw us up. Okay, verse number 22. It says, oftentimes he have cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him, but thou canst do anything. But can you do anything? It hurts to see your child going through something that painful. He was thrown in the fire, in the water. It hurts to see your child going through, and you still have to believe and trust God. It's not going to be an easy task. It had to be hard because he was hurting. He probably cried some nights. Lord, I don't know if he said Lord, but you probably cried some nights. Lord, why did my child have to go through this? I don't know what I would do if one of my kids had cancer at 9 or 8 years old, leukemia. How would I feel? Would I still be able to come and pray but I still be able to lift my hands and praise God. You know, but what I love about this is that he said, I still believe you, but I need you to help my unbelief.
Amen.
I'm coming to you because I know you can do this thing. But I got a little doubt in me because we've been going through this for a long time. My child been hurting for a long time. Your child been hurting for a long time. Your child been going through for a long time. You done went to doctors. You done did this. You done did that. You done got medicine. And you like, I'm just at my wit's end. I'm telling you right now, just continue to believe.
Yes.
And if you can't believe, say, Lord, increase my belief. It's not a sin to say, Lord, I'm struggling with believing in you. I need you to increase my belief so I can continue to have faith for my child. And watch God work. Never stop believing, because you're going to be right there on the verge of a breakthrough. And when you stop, it stops.
Amen.
Don't stop believing.
I believe it, that, you know, in the story, we're experiencing the same stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at verse 22 that he brought up, it says, oftentimes it has cast them into the fire. That it is demonic forces. Our children really battle against spiritual strongholds, cutting themselves. There's a high rate of suicide among children, trying to get them to believe ungodly things like, oh, I'm a girl when you're really a boy, oh, I'm a boy when you're really a girl. Those are ungodly spirits that are trying to confuse our children. And so this shows us that sometimes it's out of our hands our ability to help them. No matter how strong you think you are, how smart you think you are, there are spiritual dynamics that's operating in the atmosphere today and operating in people's families that the only answer is Jesus.
Amen.
Some of the answer to many of the problems that's happening in our society today, and on the school campuses, at the high schools, is Jesus. We're taking Jesus out of the equation.
Yes.
We're taking God out of the homes, taking God out of the community, taking God out of the schools, and then we wonder why they're struggling with violence and low self-esteem and trying to harm themselves, because there's a lot of demonic forces in operation in the United States.
Yes.
And so we've got to bring Jesus back into the picture.
Yes.
We just have to. And I hear what you're saying. You can't give up, whether it's some kind of physical sickness or whether it's just spiritual attacks that has come against their minds. We got to be laying hands on our kids at night, praying over them, rebuking the enemy. Lord, give them joy, give them peace, binding every stronghold that will come against their thought process. We really have to do spiritual warfare, because in this text we see that the enemy is fighting against our children.
Amen.
Yes.
The devil would throw them in the fire. This is suicidal spirits.
Yes.
Throw them in the water and try to destroy him, try to get them to drown themselves.
Yes.
I'm sure the husband probably had the father to dive in the water just to save them.
Right.
Had to pull them out. What are you doing? We got their hand over the fire trying to burn themselves.
Yeah.
We got to understand the spiritual attacks that's coming against our children. We got to pay attention to what they're watching on the internet, whether they're watching pornography, all this kind of foolishness getting them caught up without us paying attention. We have to be aware that the enemy is coming to kill, steal, and destroy, and he's trying to work through the families. That's what we're talking about, faith and family. We need faith in our families in all areas.
Yes. Yes.
So this story is a very dynamic story.
Very dynamic. Very dynamic.
And the thing that's so funny is that I brought them to your disciples, and they couldn't cast them out. And I just want to say this: sometimes you just got to bypass people and take them straight to Jesus.
Yeah.
But the disciples, they couldn't do it. It was not the preacher; he couldn't do it. So I had to go straight to God, and that's what God is looking for.
Yes.
I know I often say, call for those of the church. They pray the prayer of faith, and the prayer of faith will heal the sick. But listen, there are times when you need to take your child straight to Jesus.
Straight to Jesus.
Straight to Jesus.
Straight to Jesus.
Amen.
Amen. That's good stuff right there.
We want to look at, we're talking about faith and family. Why don't you go ahead?
So we want to look at Genesis chapter 19, verse 14. We're talking about faith and family, so we want to look at Lot and his son-in-laws. This is what happens when family doesn't share the same faith as you. Go to Genesis chapter 19.
Amen.
This is what happens when a family doesn't share the same faith as you. A lot of times there's uproar in families, there's division in families, and usually it's because they're not believing the same thing.
Let's start reading at verse 12. There's a little context to it. This is a long story, but we can probably jump in at 12.
Number 12. 19, starting at verse number 12. And it says, And the man said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place? For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his son-in-law, and which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But it seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-laws. And they did not go with him, and they ended up perishing with the city, Sodom and Gomorrah. So when we look at this, Lot was instructed to get out. Do you have anybody here? Your sons, daughters, get them. When he went out to go get them, they didn't believe him. A lot of times you'll be in situations where they don't believe you.
Right.
You sure that's the Lord? That don't sound like God to me. I don't think that's the Lord. Because again, here's another far-fetched situation. They're in the city, they have a place to stay, they have food, they have clothes. You telling me to leave everything and just, where are we going? No, that don't sound like God to me. But it was God.
Amen.
Yeah.
And because they didn't have the same faith, they didn't believe, they ended up perishing. And I'm pretty sure when the fire and brimstone came, they was like, oh man, this is real. But by then it was too late. Don't put yourself in a position where it's too late.
Amen. That's good.
Where you miss out on a blessing that God has for you, but because you didn't believe and you didn't respond or act when you were supposed to, you miss out on something. A lot of times say, well, can you miss out on something that God has? Yes, you can. Because you didn't believe. God said, go apply for that job. Now, and this is something, but it equates to it, but God said, go do this, go do that. Go back to school right now. Because I have something great for you. You steady praying, Lord, I want to increase. Okay, go do this. Go apply for this. Go do that. But I don't know, Lord, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. You gotta do it right now. I don't have time. No excuses.
Amen.
You don't want to miss out. They end up missing out on life. They end up dying
Right.
because they didn't listen to what I was telling them.
And we know that in this story, the city was very diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Solomon and Gomorrah was Sodomites, which was an ungodly behavior that God did not accept. And why they would want to stick around, I'm clueless about that. But even in society today, people don't really respond to warnings that well.
No.
You know, we try to warn people of sin all the time. So, you know, and they're like, they just have all these excuses why it's okay to live in sin. But they don't realize that when the time comes for the judgment, they're going to be in a bad situation.
Yes.
The wages of sin is death.
Yes.
The gift of life is eternal life. And the warning to flee, to escape for your life that was given to them is the same warning that God's given to us today.
Yes.
Peter says, you got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. I mean, you got to pay attention to the fact how the devil will trick you, make you believe that, well, God's not coming back, or I got a long time to live, and, I can still, at the last minute, I'll come and repent and turn to God. You don't know if you have a chance to repent and turn to God.
Jesus.
We have to be willing to take heed to warnings.
Yes.
And God's constantly sending warnings to America. He's sending warnings to people in the world that's not saved. He's sending warnings to people in the church who are sitting up in the church backsliding.
Yes.
So they're in church, but they don't read. They're in church, but they don't pray. They're in church, but they still lie and cuss and commit fornication. And, the preacher's preaching, sending warning, and they're just looking at it like, they're just like mocking it. Like, oh, yeah. And that's what was happening in this story. And that's what I see so clearly, how even today, there are going to be some people that get destroyed merely because they don't take heed to the warning
Amen.
that God is sending out to them.
Yeah. Amen.
I know you had mentioned something before to me about how you were talking about that perhaps they hadn't even consummated their marriage with their wives.
Yeah.
Because in the story, it says that when the Solomonites were trying to get the angels, that Allah said, "Take my wives. I have 2 daughters that are virgins." Well, how could they be virgins if they were married?
Right.
Other daughters.
So that means, say it again,
He had other daughters.
he had other daughters. Is that what it says?
Yeah, that would be the situation.
Either that or they were gay and married. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Because it says, "Take my daughters." He asked about his daughters.
Well, he only had 2 daughters.
Yeah,
Because those were 2 daughters that ended up getting drunk.
Oh yeah, so he just had 2 daughters.
Yeah, 2 daughters.
Take my 2 daughters, and then in the end, he had 2 daughters that escaped with him.
Yeah.
And so, just the warnings, we really got to pay attention to. Even the wife, when they were leaving in verse 17, look at this in verse 17. Came to pass when they had brought them forth abroad that he said, "Escape for your life, and don't look back. Escape for your life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed." He said, "Don't look back." The wife turns around, she looks back, and then she's destroyed. It's the same thing. We have warnings, and we got to really take heed to the warnings that God is delivering to us.
Amen. Amen. That's good stuff.
I really hope that these table talks are beneficial. I really do. We want you to take your study of the Word personal. Take the responsibility upon your own shoulders and really begin to get in the Word, dig in the Word, and then ask questions about the Word.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have some comments. I'm not sure we have any questions or not.
Yes.
Pastor Mike, what comments do we have?
We have a question from Rhonda. I don't know if she wanted me to tell that, but amen. What if what your husband says does not make sense?
Well, let me take a stab at that. stab. So what if your husband says doesn't make sense? The scripture says, obey your husband as unto the Lord. That means you can't follow him into a ditch. So if it lines up with the Word of God, that's what you line up with. If it's something for, hey, let's go rob the bank, that's completely ungodly, against the will of God, then of course you don't line up and do that. But when we're talking about faith, so the question kind of is an odd question, because when you're dealing with walking with God in faith, sometimes everything don't make sense.
Right.
Faith don't, a lot of times don't make sense. Yeah. But so I'm not sure if you're saying that, or if you're really asking the question whether or not they're trying to get you to do something that's ungodly. If someone's trying to get you to do something ungodly, no, do not do it, do not follow them. I don't care who it is.
Yeah. Next one is, what do you do when the outcome is not what you have been praying for when it comes to your child? For instance, if your child's sick with cancer, or even if a mother's taken away from her child.
You want to take a stab?
So it goes back to what we're saying. You got to continue to seek God in this situation and ask God for your unbelief, because a lot of times what we think should happen, God is working something else in the background. Sometimes we think, well, it should go this way, and it don't go the way we should go, so then we think God is not doing something, but God is still working in the midst of it. Understand, we live in, I say, life comes at us all. There are challenges, there are setbacks because of sin. That's just what we inherit, is this thing called life, and there's going to be trouble. But God is faithful to deliver us out of every one. Now, is there going to be some are going to be harder than others? Yes, there are. Is some going to be tougher to deal with than others? Yes, it is. But at the end of the day, God is still faithful, and He will bring you out, or He will do what He said that He will do.
And that type of question, you get it all the time, is because in our society that we live, we believe that Jesus should do everything we ask Him to do the way we ask Him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But God is the one that's actually in control. And we see that in the story of King David. His first son was sick unto death, and he fasted and he prayed and he believed in God and he was mourning, but the child did not live. And then he just got up and washed his face, and then his his servants were like, what is this all about? When your child was sick, you're all crying and stuff, and now that he's died, you're just going on about your business. He said, well, why should I mourn now? When he was sick, I was petitioning God to see whether or not God would heal him. Because ultimately, it's whatever God decides to do.
Right.
And so you have to make sure that when you're petitioning God about something, that you're not trying to control God. Because we can't control God. We can believe God for what we want and then listen for what God's going to do and then believe God for the answer. And if the answer is not what we want it to be, our answer to God is amen and amen.
Amen.
Another question coming in is it a bad thing if husband and wife have different levels of faith?
It's not a bad thing. So we're not talking about levels of faith when we talk about everyone having faith. Because everybody's level of faith actually varies. Remember the husband that brought the son? That situation was so dire, he's like, help my unbelief. But that doesn't mean that his level of faith was higher or lower than anybody else. It just means that circumstance was difficult for him to believe God for. And so also as you get, depending on how long you've been saved, God challenges, he tries your faith. It's the trying of your faith that works with patience. And so there's a development there's a level of development that takes place as you're walking with God. And God does it by trying your faith. That's what increases your faith. And so there's nothing wrong with this because we're individually walking with God. Even though we're collectively in the family and we all have faith, what God is doing with me is what God is doing with me. And what God is doing with him is what God is doing with him. And so there's no right or wrong because we all stand before the Lord for ourselves.
That's good.
Any other questions or comments?
All right.
We really appreciate you taking time to write your questions. We would love to answer any questions you have. Even if you write them afterwards, we'll talk about them next week. This is very important to me that you get in this word for yourself. Now is actually offering time.
Amen.
We are looking for you to support the ministry, support the work of God. We're going to be moving into a new building. We're going to be setting up studio. We're going to be putting out more content, more classes, webinars. And so we're trying to get the message out in a greater fashion. We want to get the message out all across the United States, all across the world. And so we need your support. We need you, if you're a member of the church, we need you to continue to be faithful in your giving and your tithing. You can go to our website, shieldoffaithaz.org, and right on the homepage is a link that says Give. It's a big Givelify. When you click that, it takes you right to Givelify. Or you can click the link I think is a link down below on the Facebook, and it might be a link below on the YouTube. I'm not exactly sure. You can go there and you can use your debit card or credit card, and you can be faithful in your giving.
Amen. Again, where we're going, Pops was saying it earlier. You said it when he was teaching. He was talking about how they're pulling Jesus out of everything. They're pulling Jesus out of school. They're pulling Jesus out of this. They're pulling Jesus off TV. They're trying to pull Jesus off everything. So what we're doing is saying we want to put Jesus in everything that we can. So we're going to use social media. We're going to use Facebook. We're going to use YouTube. We're going to use the website. We're going to use every avenue we have to put content out there that represents Jesus. But this is not free. It doesn't, the equipment is not free, the lights, the cameras, all the things that we want to do, the streaming we want to do, just the internet alone to get the speed we want costs about $400 a month just to be able to stream without it being glitchy. So understand when you give, you're sowing into good ground. God is definitely going to bless you, but you're sowing into a ministry that's going to be impactful, not just in our community, but all across the world. That's the one wonderful thing about the internet. We can impact people in all other countries, but it's going to take all of us working together. And by you giving, you supporting, that allows us to be able to do the things that God is calling us to do. This is something God is calling us to do, and we're going to do everything we can to do it. We're going to give up our time. We're going to give up our money. We're giving. We're all in this thing together. So be a part of this move of God. Be a part of what's getting ready to happen. New building, new things. content. Wait till 2019. I'm telling you, we're gonna have so much content out there. It's going to be amazing. You're gonna be floored. You're like, oh my goodness. But again, we need money in order to do things that we want to do. So please support the ministry. Again, Givelify. Click the links. You can give whatever you want to give. We appreciate y'all tuning in today for Table Talk. Anything else you want to say, Pops?
For those that are watching that don't know me, I'm Bishop William Hudson, and this
Pastor Mike.
and we appreciate you taking time with us. The Lord bless you in Jesus' name.
Oh, don't forget, for those that are here in Arizona, we do have service at 460 South Country Club,
Yes.
11 o'clock, morning worship service. Come out and be a part. Come and praise God with us. We appreciate it again. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.